My baby only cried when the new nanny walked in like a siren, cutting straight through a quiet house, and everyone told me it was separation anxiety, that I was tired, that this was normal. But the night I hid a camera in a stuffed llama and watched the feed on my phone, our perfect life cracked right down the middle. We live up on a hill outside Austin in one of those modern farmhouses that looks calmer than it feels, all pale wood and clean lines. Which is funny because motherhood is the opposite of clean lines. It's spit up and cold coffee and trying to guess what a person who can't talk is trying to tell you. You know what I mean? I'm Brooke. My husband is Grant, the guy who solves problems with spreadsheets. And our son is Max, the person who taught me that sometimes your gut is the only instrument you own that doesn't lie. We hired a nanny because my leave ended and we were drowning. Her name was Sloane. The agency sold her like a miracle, 15 years. In glowing references, CPR card laminated like a badge, the whole thing. And the first time she took Max from my arms, he went stiff, then purple, then let out a scream that made my bones feel thin. Sloane smiled like a hotel concierge, said he was a sensitive soul, rocked him with that professional rhythm that gets filmed for parenting ads. And I nodded along because when you let a stranger into your home to help with the thing you most want to do yourself, you learn to smile even when your throat is tight. For days, the pattern held the squeak of Sloane's white sneakers on the hardwood. Then Max's cry spiking higher, then the weird slump. When I took him back, not calm exactly. More like the minute after you stop holding your breath, and I told myself, babies cry, doctors say it, blogs say it, friends say it, while sending you links. But something about his cry felt like pleading, not complaining. It was the small things that kept me awake, the eucalyptus chemical smell on a clean onesie that wasn't our laundry soap. The split-second twist in Sloane's mouth when he turned his face from the bottle, the way his fingers grabbed my shirt whenever her footsteps came down the hall. And when I told Grant all of that over takeout, he swirled his glass like he was weighing a merger and said I was exhausted, that anxious people see patterns in noise, and I nodded, because I am anxious and I was exhausted. But I also kept hearing that noise and it didn't feel like noise. Nights were the worst, the monitor glowing on the nightstand, Max staring at the nursery doorway like he could see someone I couldn't, eyes wide open, not blinking. And I'd nudge Grant and whisper, "Wook." And he'd groan and say he'll settle. And I'd lie there doing that thing mothers do, arguing with yourself about whether love is making you ridiculous or saving your life. Yeah, that happened. The next morning, Sloane arrived at 8 sharp sky blue scrubs, easy smile, and Max started crying like a fire alarm. And I said I'd mix the formula today. And she said, of course, but there was a flicker in her eyes, like I'd stepped into her lane without checking my mirrors. And I stood there behind the kitchen island, thinking about all the ways women are taught to be polite, while our instincts pound on the glass. That afternoon, I ordered a camera the size of a button, tucked it into the stuffed llama on the nursery shelf, angled to catch the crib. And my hands shook, not because I was afraid of getting caught, but because I was afraid I wouldn't. And then I left the room, opened the feed in my office, and waited. At first it was textbook slow sway, damp cloth, little hum that sounded like a commercial for peace. And I almost laughed at myself, until the hum cut off like a switch, and her face dropped the act flat and hard, and she hissed, enough pinched his forearm, just a shade too tight, laid him into the crib, with that careless weight you use for a bag, not a person, smacked the rail with her palm so it buzzed, leaned in and whispered, "No one's coming. It's me or nothing. Hush." Then turned her back and scrolled her phone while Max wailed like the roof had opened. And I sat on the office carpet with my mouth covered, every part of me saying, "Go," and some other part saying, "Record," because women learn to gather proof like it's armor. When she flicked his cheek the way you swat a gnat, I stood and called Grant. He didn't pick up, because meetings always win until they don't, so I texted, "Come home now." And 40 minutes later, he walked in with that crease between his eyebrows, asked what this was about, and I pressed play, and we watched in a silence that didn't feel empty. It felt like a storm, and when it ended, he said, "I'm sorry," in a voice I hadn't heard on him before. And I cried in a way that didn't look cute, and nobody said the word emotional, and nobody said the word paranoid, and our house changed temperature by a few degrees. The next morning I stood in the nursery doorway with my hair in a knot, and no makeup, because I didn't want armor, I wanted truth, and when Sloane reached for the diaper bag, I said, "Don't just that," and she blinked and tried confusion. "I'm not sure I understand," and I stepped closer and told her I saw everything. The rail, the pinch, the words, and her face went pale, then mean, and she said, "Do you think anyone will believe you?" "I've worked for people more important than you," and I said, "Then you know what happens when important people watch footage, and I played 5 seconds just enough," and she reached like she could put the image back inside my phone. Then she lifted her tote and walked out the door, clicked, not slammed, and the click felt like a seal breaking. After that, Max slept in my arms like he finally got the memo that it was safe again. His little hand opening instead of clawing, the breathing slow and ordinary. And if you've ever lived for a while inside a constant siren, you know ordinary can make you weep harder than the bad stuff, because ordinary feels like air after a long dive. We filed a report. The detective was kind, in that tired way of people who have seen too much, he said. What we had would probably keep her out of childcare, and probably is a word that can make you grateful and furious. At the same time, we sent the footage to the agency. They called with polished apologies, removed her from their roster. Then their lawyer sent a letter about privacy, and none of that touched the fact that my son was finally laughing at the ceiling fan again. We didn't hire anyone new right away. We turned our schedules into Tetris. Grant moved calls to Dawn. I took meetings in the driveway, while Max slept in the back seat. We ate too many tacos, and the house stopped curdling at 2 p.m. It warmed by inches, and Grant changed in ways that mattered. He started asking, "What does your gut say?" And then he actually waited for the answer. We still fight, like the weather versus the chart. But now when the wind shifts, he opens a window and asks me what I smell. People ask if I regret installing the camera, and here's my answer. Because sometimes the thing you need is not a verdict, it's permission to move, and that little lens gave me permission to walk through my own doubt. It took my fear, which was easy to dismiss, and turned it into a clip where a toy llama watches a rail get slapped, and I hate that it was necessary, but I'm grateful it was there. The twist, in case you missed it, wasn't only Sloane's mask dropping. It was mine too, the one where I play the chill woman who doesn't want to be difficult. The one where I apologize for making people uncomfortable with my instincts. That mask hit the floor. And as much as I wanted justice, what I really wanted was to stop editing myself down for someone else's comfort. We'll hire help again when we find the right person, but we'll hire like people who know what we are protecting, not like people who have something to prove. Some nights I sit by Max's crib and think about all the houses Sloane must have passed through, the babies who cried and cried, the moms who got talked out of their senses, and I wonder how much of what we call professionalism is just practiced, ignoring none of that excuses anything. It just makes the whole thing bigger than one villain, you know what I mean. We ended on a win that wasn't neat, but was ours. Sloane is out, Max is safe. Our house sounds human again. And I learned that a baby's cry isn't noise, it's a language with perfect honesty, and the job isn't to silence it, it's to translate it. So tell me this and be honest, would you hide a camera if you were me? Is recording someone without telling them fair when the person you're protecting can't speak? Did I wait too long? Would you have believed your partner sooner or later? What should accountability look like for agencies that miss what they should catch? Drop your take in the comments, share what you've seen in real life. And if you want more stories told the way they actually feel, messy and clear, at the same time hit subscribe and send this to the person who needs the permission you might have needed, because somebody out there is staring at a monitor, glow right now, and they deserve to feel the room get warm again.